I can still hear the satisfying thud of the shovel striking the post. My wife, Sarah, had warned me. "It's perfect, Ben," she'd said. "But you know how they are." She was right. I knew. I had lived in this pristine, meticulously planned neighborhood for 7 years, and for 7 years, I had quietly endured the petty tyranny of our HOA board, a kingdom ruled by one queen, Karen. But this time, something felt different. This mailbox wasn't just a home for my junk mail. It was a statement, a sleek, minimalist, matte black beacon of modern design in a sea of beige conformity. And it was exactly what our bylaws, to the letter, explicitly allowed. What I didn't know was that my mailbox was about to become a $10,000 lesson in suburban warfare. Did I really think I could get away with a simple aesthetic choice in a neighborhood where even the shade of your tulips was up for debate, Bo? How naive I was. The first notice arrived a week later, tucked neatly inside its own envelope, sealed with a self-important wax stamp of the community's eagle crest. It wasn't a friendly note. It was a formal notice of violation, citing unapproved architectural modifications. Karen's signature, a flourish of loopy cursive, was an unmistakable dagger on the page. The fine was $50. No big deal, I thought. I'll just appeal it. I submitted a polite, detailed email with photos and highlighted sections of the bylaw, proving my new mailbox was well within the approved guidelines. The response, a new notice, this one for $100. It wasn't a mistake, it was a message. This wasn't about the mailbox anymore. This was a power play, a declaration of war. A deep, heavy sigh escaped my lips as I crumpled the paper. The air seemed to grow thin. My personal freedom was being chipped away, one fine at a time. And the injustice of it was a bitter, metallic taste in my mouth. "Don't let them get to you," Sarah whispered, her hand gently on my arm. But it was too late. The hook was set. The fines kept coming. $100, then $200, then $500, escalating with each passing week. A daily countdown to financial ruin. Each new letter a fresh gut punch. The neighborhood, usually so vibrant with kids playing and neighbors chatting, felt like it was holding its breath. People would glance at my mailbox, me perfectly legal, aesthetically pleasing mailbox, and then quickly look away, their faces a mixture of pity and fear. I was an example, a cautionary tale. "You hear about what Karen's doing to Ben." I imagined them whispering, their voices a low hum of gossip behind closed doors. The fines snowballed, reaching an absurd $10,000, and a lien was placed on my house. The pressure was immense, a crushing weight on my chest. I couldn't sleep. The thought of losing everything over a mailbox, over one woman's need for control, was a nightmare. I was living with my eyes wide open. But then, a moment of clarity, a flicker of an idea. I wasn't just Ben the homeowner. I was Ben, a structural engineer. I had spent my life building things, understanding codes, finding weak points. The rules weren't just for homeowners, they were for everyone, including the board. And a thought struck me with the force of a thunderclap. What if the rules that Karen held so dear were the very tools I could use to dismantle her authority? This wasn't a battle of wills, it was a battle of information. My mind began to race, 1,000 possibilities swirling, a quiet, furious storm brewing just beneath the surface. I started digging, poring over every single page of the HOA bylaws, minutes from old meetings, and financial records. My computer screen became a window into the inner workings of their little empire, and what I found made my blood run cold. It turns out Karen had a little secret, a very expensive, very illegal secret. The landscaping contract for the entire community, a 6-figure deal, had been awarded to a company owned by, wait for it, her husband's cousin. And the bylaw? It was crystal clear. No contracts could be awarded to family members of board members without a community-wide vote. A simple fact, a dusty old rule. But it was the crack in her fortress, the perfect place for a tactical strike. I found more. The new community pool furniture, purchased from a supplier where her son was a senior manager. The price was 30% higher than the market rate. The evidence piled up, a mountain of paper and digital files, each one a nail in the coffin of her reign. I felt a surge of adrenaline, a raw, primal thrill. The tables were turning. The hunter was about to become the hunted. I organized all my findings, a meticulous, indisputable dossier of corruption and nepotism. The plan was simple. I wouldn't just fight the fines, I would go for the jugular. And I wouldn't be alone. I reached out to a few neighbors I knew were fed up with Karen's rule. People who had suffered their own quiet injustices. The elderly man whose rose bushes were deemed too wild. The young couple fined for their children's chalk drawings on the sidewalk. They were hesitant at first, their voices a trembling whisper of fear. "She'll ruin us," they said. But as I laid out the evidence, as they saw the scope of her hypocrisy, their fear turned to resolve. A silent, shared understanding passed between us. We were a team. The annual HOA meeting was usually a sleepy, dull affair. But tonight, the air was thick with anticipation. The room was packed, more people than I had ever seen. Karen, sitting at the head of the long table, looked confident, a queen on her throne. She opened the meeting, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness, a sound that made my skin crawl. "Thank you all for coming. We have a few pressing matters to discuss, including a rather, stubborn issue with a certain mailbox." She looked right at me, a cold, predatory glint in her eyes. It was my cue. I stood up, my voice steady, my heart pounding a furious rhythm against my ribs. "Actually, Karen," I said, "I have a few pressing matters of my own to discuss." I laid out the evidence, piece by damning piece, each revelation a small explosion in the quiet room. The landscaping contract, the pool furniture, the whispered conversations became an uproar. "Is this true?" someone yelled. The atmosphere shifted from tension to chaos. Karen's face, a mask of self-importance just moments before, began to crumble. Her perfectly painted smile cracked, her eyes darting nervously. Her lies, her petty manipulations, were all out in the open, exposed for everyone to see. She was cornered. Her power, once so absolute, was now just a memory. The vote was unanimous. Karen was removed from the board. The fines were rescinded. And then came the final, devastating blow. I presented my legal fees, my time, my emotional distress, a meticulously calculated bill for $10, zero, and I demanded payment, not from the community, but from the person responsible, from Karen. The silence was deafening, a thick blanket of disbelief. A single tear rolled down her cheek, smudging her makeup. The sound of her sob was a small, hollow thing, swallowed by the shocked stillness of the room. It was over. She was undone. My new mailbox still stands, a quiet monument to my small victory. The fines are gone. The lien on my house a forgotten nightmare. But the true victory wasn't about the money or the mailbox. It was about standing up to a bully, about finding your voice, about holding power accountable. It was a lesson for everyone in that neighborhood, a reminder that the rules apply to all, and that a small, quiet act of defiance can be more powerful than any threat. I still drive down my street, and I see my neighbors, their faces no longer filled with fear, but with a quiet respect. We learned a valuable lesson that day, one about community and integrity. What do you think? Was this the right thing to do? Is it right to fight fire with fire?